That's it. So when you look at David Benavidez, all the people that rock with only David Benavidez, they want to point out, oh, well, what has the talented Mr. David Morrell, what has he done? You know, they're going to bring that up. And they're going to, really hold his resume up to the light. Now, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it and break it down, but they're going to hold his resume up to the light. They're going to say, oh, man, he's moving up to do what, to do this, to do, they're going to say that. So we're gonna look at some things as far as the numbers and the breakdown. We're going to do that. But what you got to understand is the talented Mr. David Morrell has already been doing some things. He's already been doing some things. And up there in Minneapolis, he's already has established pretty much an organic, with him being Cuban, up there in that cold place. I've been out there. I went to the Mall of America and all that. Being out there in that cold place, he has an organic fan base, and he's been doing his thing there. He's been performing and showing up and showing out. So when he get his home fights and he get his momentum going, and he actually get those names inside the ring. Let me see, make sure. Salute Cookie Monster. Bodywork. But he's already been doing his thing out there. He's already been filling that stadium out and putting on spectacular performances. But what I gotta remind people sometimes is the history, man. That's the lane, man. Really just putting a stake in the ground and keeping people grounded with what's really going on around certain people, because I try to keep it straight down the middle when it comes down to them. But I'm gonna have to stop this, and we're gonna have to go back down memory lane, and I'm gonna have to play this video because it's important, and you're gonna figure out why I call him, or why I had been calling him, El Sicario. Let me stop this, and let me present this. Let's see. This is it.
Everybody, but inside the ring, there's just nothing. Welcome to Bodywork. Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. According to Boxing News 24 on April 26 by Joseph Heron, David Morrell Jr. has become Canelo's hitman for the WBA, claims coach Ronnie Shields. Joseph says, if you didn't already know, before this past Saturday evening, current regular WBA super middleweight title holder David Morrell Jr., 9-0 with 8 KOs, is a force with which to be reckoned. Although the night belonged to Gervonta Tank Davis with a dominant 7th round KO victory over Ryan Garcia at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, one could argue that the fighter most affectionately known as Osvari gave the 20,842 fans in attendance the most spectacular and brutal stoppage of the evening. It took the Cuban native less than a round to dispatch former Olympic bronze medalist Yamaguchi Falco in the scheduled 12-round contest with referee Celestino Ruiz. immediately calling a halt to the bout at the 2-minute and 22 mark of the opening stanza. Immediately following the contest, the 25-year-old switch-hitting phenom called out interim WBC super middleweight champ David Benavidez. When asked why he didn't publicly call out the undisputed 168-pound champ Canelo Alvarez, head coach Ronnie Shields had much to say about the matter. Why? Questioned the 5-decade fight trainer. It won't do any good. We have no confidence that Canelo will ever face either David of the division, Morrell or Benavidez. Alvarez has already publicly announced that he has no intention of facing his mandatories this year. I know technically John Wright is the WBO mandatory, but he's held that distinction for all of but 2 seconds. Canelo, North America's biggest boxing attraction over the past half-decade, like how they put that, hasn't faced the WBA mandatory challenger since earning the coveted distinction with the dominant victory over Callum Smith in December of 2020. With the scheduled match opposite John Ryder in 2 weeks and a proposed rematch with current WBA lightweight heavyweight champ Dimitri Bivol in September, Alvarez's calendar is ostensibly filled until 2024. To make matters more confusing, David Morrell Jr. has been issued the responsibility of taking on Canelo's mandatory challengers for the WBA since earning a regular title back in August of 2020. With savage knockout victories over Mario Abel Cazares in 2021 and the most recently Idas Yerbalsinelli in November of last year, it would seem that Morrell has indirectly discharged Canelo of any responsibilities to the WBA. It's confusing for the fans and completely unfair to my fighter, stated Ronnie Shields. While Alvarez isn't held accountable and is free to fight whomever he wants, moving from one division to the next, my fighter is taking care of all of Canelo's mandatory challenges. In fact, David should start using the nickname El Sicario, because that's what he's become to Alvarez, Canelo's unofficial hitman for the WBA. And all the while, we can't get a fight against Canelo Alvarez. Does that make any sense at all? Although the World Boxing Association has made attempts over the last year to consolidate their respective titles in each division, don't expect the sanctioning organization to make a similar effort at 168. As long as the WA can continue to collect 3% of Canelo Alvarez's purse in 2023, their belt is worth a lot more money around the waist of the current undisputed super middleweight champion. According to Ronnie Shields, Team Morrell isn't holding their breath any longer and making plans to take matters into their own hands. We know we'll never get to compete for a super WBA super middleweight championship as long as Canelo is their champion. So we hope to get the next best thing, David Benavidez, later this year. But after just 9 professional bouts on Ovari's resume, is the 25-year-old puncher ready for such a seemingly daunting task? My champion is ready for anybody at 168 and 175 pounds currently, claimed the prolific fight trainer. But are they ready for Morrell? Yikes! You know what I'm saying? There's so much to unpack. One, the politics of the belts. Yes, the belts are worth more in certain people's hands because of the draw that they bring, a la Canelo. Also, man, being in that position, holding that secondary belt, a regular belt, he's basically faced with all of Canelo's mandatories. So he pretty much is Canelo's hitman, if you can say so. Ronnie Shields hit it all on the head. Man, they're calling out David Benavidez, you know, and they also said that he's ready for 168 and 175. David Morrell, man, that dude, you heard what he said. He said, outside, I respect everything and everybody, but inside the ring, I don't respect nothing, man. What do you think about this? You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is in your face. This is factual information since 2020. And do they have a point about Canelo being able to fight whoever he wants and all this? Because he pretty much on his farewell tour right now, because he can fight whatever, and it's all this smoke waiting for him. David Morrell, I call him the talented Mr. David Morrell, is waiting in the wings, and he's up on your heels, to include David Benavidez. Anyways, man, I just wanted to lay something on you, man. Give you a lot to think about. El Sicario, aka the talented Mr. David Morrell, aka Osvari, 25-year-old Cuban phenom / nightmare. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the likes. Thanks for all my new subscribers. Thanks for people who share the videos and comment and leave feedback here at Bodywork Boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.
So this is why I say that we all must do our homework and we all must do our research. Now, any kind of dry hate that you get right now is probably going to come from somebody who's not really familiar with what's been going on, or somebody that actually has a hidden agenda. Because in that video, at that time, there was Ronnie Shields saying that David Morrell was fighting Canelo Alvarez's WBA mandatories since 2020. We're in 2024. Salute, Smoke. But we in 2024. So he was fighting Canelo Alvarez's mandatories for 4 years now. Ronnie Shields also went to say in that period of time. Now, this video was a year ago, and I told you I was on it. Fact-based content. He said, we're ready for anybody. He said to include David Benavidez. He said, and we're ready at 168 and 175. What are you talking about, Mike? If you listen, I'm going to tell you, right? What's going to happen on Saturday night? Saturday evening? He's going to ingratiate himself at 175. So that means the young man is actually doing what he said he was going to do. David said, yeah, I'm going to 175. He's been calling. That is action. That's not just words. You hear the man speaking, he ain't on social media like that. You know, he making his little debuts, and he already got his place sold up out there in Minneapolis at the Armory. With Jamal James and them used to fight, you know, he used to be up in that thing too. So he got, you know, he got his little following. And yeah, he have his OnlyFans too, his cult-like following too. He has that as well. But he's actually following up things that, now that was his coach stating facts. So when we put somebody like Canelo Alvarez up on a pedestal, this is just one of the lanes. If we just single out and we don't mention David Benavidez, we don't mention the selection and all that, we just mention the fact that he was fighting the mandatories since 2020. It's 2024. So if we'll have a fighter like the main card who, you know, this David Morrell has, we gotta look at it, man, because I don't like just talking. Let me because people need to see stuff, you know. People need to see stuff. So look, he's 10-0 with 9 knockouts. He's 10-0. The other guy's 10-0-1. And they saying it's because of a belt. And he has relevancy. And that's all the fights he has. Well, David Morrell had a belt at 168. He was calling one of the baddest men on the planet right now. That's also calling one of the other baddest men on the planet right now, and David and Nello. But he's been fighting the mandatories since 2020. So people say, "Oh man, when he gonna fight somebody? When he gonna, when he gonna?" Okay, he wants to fight the man right now. Like since Canelo was on his farewell tour, he wants to fight the man right now, which is David Benavidez. With David Benavidez, people was knocking him for saying, "Oh man, you should have just stayed right there. You would have had it. This is just like they were trying to say with Boots. You should have just stayed right there. You shouldn't have made them." Whatever people come up with, to justify whatever. David said, "I'm going to 175." Guess what Osvari said? "I'm going to 175 too then." How about that? So he getting ready to make his debut. Now we're talking about somebody that's 6'1", with a 78.5-inch reach, 90% knockout rates. He's only 10 fights in. But he was nice as an amateur too. People don't want to go in there because depending on, like, when we talk about him, they're going to say, "Oh man, the amateurs don't matter. What did he do in the pros?" Well, I know he won us like 465, you know what I'm saying? He won us 465. I've already shown the proof. He won us 465. He's actually one of the, he's a striker. And he's freakishly athletic. So he's not gonna get in there and play pity pat. You're not gonna have to use a dictionary to bear witness to what you about to see on Saturday, but he might steal the show. Don't act like it hasn't happened before, but the way he fights and the kind of style he is, and on that big stage, on that card, he might steal the show. So let's look at it. Look at these guys. Let's look at these guys that he's fighting. This guy's name is, his nickname is Hot Rod. But who is he, Mike? Well, the dude is 29-2. 21 knockouts. He's been knocked out once. 72% KO rate. He's 6'3", 76. So on paper, they saying that he got David by 2 inches in height, but David still got him in the reach. So that's, what that shows is that you don't have all the advantages. That's what we got to see sometimes. Sometimes people be having all these things in their mind, but we don't see their fighters against anybody most of the time. And when they dominate, it's against somebody where they have all the advantages. We don't see them mix it up where they don't have all the advantages. Well, he's not going to have all the advantages in this one. Buddy is taller, but he got the longer reach. Now, as far as the matchup and all that, Buddy got experience. So he fought Sullivan Barrera. That was back in March. So he got some activity. And before that, it was back in September. So that was 6 months prior. So that's even better. That he got more activity. He TKO on that guy. That guy was 14-4, granted. But I seen him fight. I seen him fight. But he's always synonymous with Artur Beterbiev. And that angle gets played too, because that's what they'll mention. "Oh man, he got in there with Artur Beterbiev." Artur Beterbiev took him out in 5 rounds. So you would be looking at David Morrell trying to stop this guy in 4. Because these guys are competitive. It's not what it's all about. I know we're going to have our people. It's not what it's all about. But you ask O'Shaquie Foster, even though he handily won that fight, but politics got involved. You go ask O'Shaquie right now what he's trying to do. He's going to be trying to knock something out the box. But he's always synonymous with his loss to Beterbiev. That's what people always reference when he say that. Somebody like Isaac Pitbull Cruz, he's always referenced to Tank, and he lost. I'm like, I don't know how you, but that grants favor. Now that was an experience getting in there with a beast like Beterbiev. But most of the time, you shouldn't be associated with that. So, in this case, in David Morrell's case, he's doing everything that he needs to do. He's saying the names, and he's not like somebody at 30, somebody at 35 just jaw jacking with somebody at 40. Like, no, he was actually fighting the face of boxing. He was fighting his mandatory since 2020 for that WBA strap. So that was his lane. He was doing that. He was in hot pursuit of David Benavidez. David Benavidez say, hey, I'm going up to 175 because I'm next in line for Bivol and Beterbiev. The talented Mr. David Morrell said, you know what? I'm going to. And he's about to show the world. Now, I told you about the negative connotation that people are going to put on him for being associated with PBC. Told you about that. I told you about how if you are a fan of one of those other guys, which David Benavidez has won me over as a fan. I do classify myself as a David Benavidez fan. And that was after I gave him a hard time about the weight thing. I gave him a hard time about, you know, the other transgression he had, but I don't rub and smear it in his face. I'm not going to do that all this time later where, you know what I'm saying, he pretty much did his time. But I was also one of the ones that was objective in saying that it was kind of crazy how Nello mustered up all this energy to make this run for them belts, and it just so happened to be when David didn't have that strap. You know what I'm saying? And now politics is politics, and he is the face, and he can pick and choose and refuse, and you know, because he is the bag, so he, you know, he got carte blanche on the game. But at the same time, man, we gotta recognize his actions. We gotta look at David and his actions and who he is. So I give him credit in his own merit. I'm hoping that David does get that fight, and that fight is not prolonged and pushed back, because he's going to get the winner. And this young man, David Morrell, the talented Mr. David Morrell, he's looking for the smoke, man. I mean, you can't ask for something else in a boxer. Because right now we get a lot of people that just like talking and being toxic. But he's about business. And he's going to get in there and put on the demolition. You know, he's in hot pursuit. Like he you know, and he's one of the next big things. You know, H Money used to always he said it. Even under that video, you'll see him saying, man, hey, David Morrell, he's the next big thing. So a lot of people was watching it. I think he's been kind of playing in the shadows. But when I look at it, and I look at the pace and the track that he's on, man, I think we're going to be in for a treat. I think he might steal the show. And you're never going to be disappointed in what you're going to get when you see him get in the ring. That's why I called it that. 175. It's going to be a demolition of this guy. Because everybody's saying his age and all that. Like, whatever, man. I just think that, look, he's staying active. Whatever excuse somebody get for moving up and picking whoever he's picking, he's moving up and picking a veteran, a common opponent of somebody like Beterbiev, because people like to use that common opponent. Well, he's a common opponent. He ain't coming off a loss, you know, and being a common opponent. He ain't coming off a loss. He's actually been knocking people out and TKOing people. So we could say, and he don't have all the advantages. And we also seen how David Benavidez did against Bodywork. He got the job done. You know, he pretty much was the same David, but this is the first time I've seen that motor slow down just a little bit. So you don't know when you're transitioning. I just think that this guy, man, he's poised to steal the show. He is poised to steal the show. He gonna come out, man. He gonna come out and he gonna do his thing, man. He gonna come out and he's probably gonna start. He's probably gonna slap Buddy to sleep. I wanted to look at that. I wanted to go back into that video. I wanted to actually put that out there for some factual information, like some things that's on record. Like, that's why I say, man, this don't be the most popular. This ain't always gonna be the stuff that's gonna get people jumping for joy and all that. This is fact-based content, man. It's just like eating your fruits and your vegetables, man. You know, at the end of the day, when everything start breaking down inside of you and you start having to eat healthy, you might well go ahead and get ahead of the curve. Start paying attention to some truth and some fact, not just junk food all the time. You know what I'm saying? Don't just put junk food. It's okay to have it. You know, you can, you know, as long as you working it out and you getting your fruits and veggies. Not that Reggie. You know, so I think that it was something that I needed to reiterate about him. You know, he's been defending mandatory, he's been defending Canelo's mandatories, he's been in pursuit of David. He ain't been all crazy on social media. He say, listen, outside the ring, I respect you, I respect him, I respect everything. Inside the ring, I don't respect nothing, man. That's his motto. I think he had one of the hardest slogans out there. I think Ngannou's slogan was pretty good too. He was like, it's a wolf in the house and I'm about to bite some sheep or something like that. Like, he said something, but I guess he ran into another wolf in Anthony Joshua. But I think that this man is going to be poised to steal the show, man. And, you know, if you're going to indulge in any conversation surrounding the talented Mr. David Morrell, remember, he has one less fight than the guy on the main card. One less fight than the guy on the main card. He's a decorated amateur as well. He held a belt, and this is his second division that he's going into. I mean, he was in the ring with Alantez Fox. You had your Balsanelli situation. You had the other situation before that. He's starting to become like a legacy fighter. He has his own, you know, demographic out there. He also had the Cubans behind him. And you got a lot of people that's been rooting for him, you know, for a long time. I know H Money been rooting for him. You know, you had some fans that have been really mainly hardcores, but this is going to be his time to shine under the big bright lights. And I think he might steal the show. You know, real brief, that's all I wanted to do, man. I said, man, I got to figure out the balance between the live and the videos, but I thought this would be appropriate so I could play that video back. That's why I wanted to do this live. But yeah, you can win some bread on David Morrell and be entertained. I think that's part of the card. If you're gonna step out, you know, make sure you back in your seat around the time. I think they said he gonna be about around, from what I saw, I think it was around 6 o'clock. You know, I'm on the East Coast, but I think that's what it said. You know, but that's my thoughts, and that's the history. So I showed him where he made some bread. I showed where his coaches were saying this. I showed some facts. We saw Buddy's resume that he's going to fight, and we clarified why he's moving to 175 and what he plans on doing. I think he's making it known, and you got to think, man, if old Sheik, if he's being selective and he got his picks and, you know, things like that, that guy David Morrell's in that number. He's in that mix. That means Sheik might know something. I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, that's it. I know it's a lot going on right now, man. So I got some catching up to do and some things that I gotta look into, man. As far as the other video I'm gonna do to break down an aspect of this fight. Trying to find the good and the value and the good things inside of this whole thing and break it down and put it out the way I see it, so that, you know, you don't have to agree, but so you can get a different perspective on everything. You know what I'm saying? That's all it really is. So I'm gonna come out, probably drop another one tomorrow, and I think that was gonna be fire too. But I don't know if I'll do a video or go live. It just depends on what's going on tomorrow. But thanks for tuning in here at Bodywork Boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.
He didn't want to box. He wanted to actually prove that he could punch with you. He was like, what the fuck is this nigga, right? Oh, okay, you want to go to sleep. You tired.
Welcome to